What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today I'm excited to bring you 5 knives that I think have extremely cool factors, whether it be how they're built or how they look. Just 5 knives in my collections that I think have a real cool factor to them. As always, I'm going to start with 3 honorable mentions, and then we will jump into the list of 5 knives that I think are cool, just a cool factor to them. Number 1 from honorable mention is going to be the Civivi Mini Asticus. I think this particular variant here with the wood handles and their Damascus looks really cool. I actually, in this instance, really like the fact that they have that dark matte Damascus here with the blacked out hardware and the wood handles. The only thing that I think they could have done to make it a little bit better is if they had started earlier on blacking out the Civivi on here. I think that would have looked really good. I think that would have just really complemented this a lot. But again, really cool factor. I do have the early Elementum pocket clip on here, but I think I'm going to swap this out for the Banter pocket clip because I really do like that a lot. Do wish they would have blacked out the lanyard hole here as well. But I think the colorway of this particular knife with the wood and the Damascus being that matte dark color looks really nice. I love the hollow grind on here. This is such a thin, slicey knife, and then the swedge here is going to make it glide through the material. So that is one of the honorable mentions that I have on the list. Next up is going to be the QSP Penguin with the titanium frag. I think this is one of the smartest moves that they did with this more premium variant of the QSP Penguin. I think the black wash and the titanium frag with the blue is probably my favorite my favorite variant of this particular knife. Looks awesome, has fantastic action with those ceramic bearings and that black wash. They did a really good job on that, and then they did a nice anodizing job on top of the titanium frag. Looks really good, and the anodizing has held up really well. Not that I hard use this, but when I do carry it and break it out, get into boxes or doing utility cuts with it or whatnot, really nice. And man, it just has broke in to be super smooth. Love this one a lot. All right, let's go ahead and get the last honorable mention out of the way, and that is going to be the Petrified Fish Mini Beluga with the Damascus handles. This particular variant, whether it be the black with the green or as you see here the lava flow, I think this is really cool. I definitely love this for a smaller knife. It has a really unique look to it with that big old belly on it. Looks like a whale for sure, and that Damascus again looks awesome. The black wash on here is done fairly well, not as good as the one I would say on the Penguin, but pretty good. And that Damascus just looks so cool. I love that they put the little milled lines on there for a little bit of texture grip, and contoured for sure. Just a really cool, unique looking knife. Again, I think this has a real cool factor to it for the size. Really nice action as well. All right, so those are my 3 honorable mentions. Let's go ahead and jump into the knives, and I am cheating a little bit right out of the gate. Number 5, and again, these are in my collection, guys, so don't get too mad at me. Number 5 is going to be the Spyderco smop. This one is the Blade HQ exclusive with the coated nitro diamond nitrate. Sorry, I always mess that up. M4 blade steel. Did have the Jade G10, had to think about it for a second. Jade G10 scales on it, but I think this is just such a cool looking knife. I love the blade shape. I really love my variant with the jungle wear scales, fat carbon scales here, and the Lynch Northwest deep carry pocket clip. Just a really cool looking knife, really nice ergos, has a ton of deployment options here. As I hit my hand trying to deploy that was me, not the knife. You see the thumb hole here is accessible. They did leave that top part sharp enough for you to catch, and you still have this leverage flipper tab because there's no jimping on here, so you're supposed to come straight down in a light switch and it flies out. I do have a set of Rocket Glide skiffs in the pivot, but man, I just really love this particular variant of the smop from Spyderco. And again, this is my build, and I am cheating a little bit, but again, these are 5 knives that have a cool factor regardless of how they're built too. All right, let's go ahead and jump into number 4. Number 4 is actually going to be the Tucson TS $129. I really like this one. I love knives that have some unique factors to it. I think this blade shape really is reminiscent of the bare knuckle. I really love the blade shape. It's not really a recurve, it just rises up and it's really straighter through here, as opposed to down here, so you got more flat spot here. I know it's probably hard to tell, and then the tip drops down so sharply that it kind of meets this rise, so it's not really a recurve. This is still going to be pretty easy to sharpen across the stones when you're actually going across, because you just have to lift up ever so slightly to rise up to get that edge on there. I think I am going to drop this down to about 17 degrees. The steel seems like it's hard enough. It's a little soft, but it's not awful. At least my variant is. Really like the dual means of deployment on this one. Looks really cool. Just a very different looking knife. The ergos on here remind me of the smok. Middle finger I usually put in this cutout, and I'm always gripping it up here. I know it's hard to tell. The milling here on the actual titanium size, very subtle, but it does lend to a little bit of grip, and it has a very nice look to it. I actually even like this pocket clip on this particular knife a whole lot, and they did cross mill it, so that you do have that texturing. I don't know how much more would have been to make it kind of match how the rest of the knife is, but still nice. Has this wedge here, has like, I don't know, like a bird shape to it. Like I feel like this is a bird's eye, and this is like the hawk bill beak on it or something to that. Just a really cool looking knife. I do like this one a lot. I have a hard time seeing myself letting this one go. I feel like this one's, this one, I keep slipping down onto the frame lock off of that pocket clip. I wish it could have been a little bit wider. That would have been nicer for me, because I do want to grip that lock bar, and I end up kind of whiffing sometimes when I'm trying to use the knife, because I want to put my finger on it so bad. Probably my only complaint about this knife, but again, it just had such a cool factor to it and such a cool look, and I love the way that the two different scales work on this one. I think this knife just has a little bit of an attitude to it, and I kind of like it and dig it a lot. All right, let's keep it going, guys. Number 3 on the list. Couldn't have a list of cool factor knives without including the Kaiser Sheepdog. I think this is probably still my favorite Kaiser model, even with all the other stuff that they're coming out with. I just love the look of this. The attitude, the cleaver still has that tip out there enough to get some puncture tasks done. I did stonewash. I didn't go back and do the second stonewash again. I might do that today while I'm trying to edit some videos out here in the garage to knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. But I really just love the way that this looks. Just has such an attitude about it. The thumb hole variant is my favorite because of the fact that it does clean it up, so you don't have the tab sticking out here taking up more pocket space, and then you're getting in return a spot for a finger choil or choke up point to use this knife. And it just, you know, it's super comfortable. It's not just the look and the attitude, and that's true about all of the knives on this list, but this one here definitely, I think, from an attitude perspective, just had to be high up on the list. And again, these are just knives in mind. Let me know down in the comment a knife that you think that has, you know, a cool factor or a little bit of an edge or attitude about its design. I'm sure there's more outlandish out there. These are probably much more subtle compared to some of the ones that are out there that have that type of attitude. But again, this is just from my collection of knives that I just think had that factor to them. If you're enjoying this video, do me a favor, leave a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't already subscribed, and don't forget to set that notification bell to all so you don't miss alert when any future videos drop. Let's finish out with the top 2, and coming in at number 2 is going to be the Roxy 3. This one here for sure is going to be a knife that I just think has a little bit of an attitude to it. I think just definitely has an absolute cool factor. I know some people wish it was a little bit bigger, and I think it would do well in a slightly larger size. Not over the top, but I think making this about an 8-inch knife would probably do it. Maybe 8 1/4. This has the reverse flick. It has the Spidey flick, it has the thumb hole. All these deployments work really well, and it has the front flipper too that works really well. They did a fantastic job tuning the detent on this. The black wash on the blade and on the scales are really well done. It does help mat it down to give it a fair amount a fair bit more amount of grip and texturing, something to hold on to. I mean, it's not as good as jimping and stimpling, but still really nice, and I think it looks really good with the brass accent hardware. I think that's a nice pop to it. I love the milled pocket clip on here. Lays nice and flat, looks good, and it does kind of, let me see if I can, hold on, let me close it and see if I can do it. It does kind of rest on both tabs, so when you're leaning on this, it's going to actually lean on the actual non-lock locking part of the lock side, so that you don't have to worry about the lockup. But even if your hand happens to hit on here, let me give you an example. So my thumb is actually on it, and it's still just, it solidifies it a little bit more, which I think works okay for that. And you can still, ow, damn, I just flipped it into my finger. Thank God. I think I hit it on this. Reverse flick, because of the fact that that pocket clip comes up so high, puts your hand in a natural position, as I totally whiffed there trying to talk through it. Let me bring it down a little bit more so that you can see. But really nice. The flipper tab, front flipper works really well. Thumb flick works really well. And again, thumb flick for that front flipper. And oops, I have to hold it down in here, but I'm trying to be careful because my ring does want to grind against it, and I don't want to put any snails on there. You can see I've already done it a couple times. But really cool knife with a lot of attitude, with a cool factor for sure. Really excellent ergos. I don't think I talked about that. They did a good job with this knife. I really like it. S35VN, guys, by the way, on that, if I haven't mentioned the blade steel. And my number one knife, even though it's probably not going to look like it when I first open it, is going to be my Chavez Redención Street. I think this knife just has attitude about it. The dual grind on it looks really cool. The swedge, the sharp edges, and of course, more so, when you have this thing clipped into your pocket and that badass skull's just poking out at you. I think this one overall for sure has the most attitude out of everything in my collection. You may think that the Roxy has more, but I just think this pocket clip and the aggressive hard jimping, hard lines, edges on this knife, and the fact that it's super duper thin and slicey with that hollow grind, and then it gives you strength out on the tip with the flat grind. Just a really cool knife with a nice factor to it. And I think it's just a little pocket tank. It's a nice chunky, got two big slabs of titanium, just a chunky grip overall. Feels really good in hand though, surprisingly, even though it is chunky and it does have all the edges, sharp edges on the corners and everything like that. Just such an awesome, cool, unique knife. And we'll flip it this way so you guys can get a good look at that one. That is my number one knife for cool factor. Let me know again down in the comments what one would you have picked? What one do you have that you think has that edginess to it, that cool factor to it? Could be button lock, could be shark lock. I mean, I thought about all of that, but I just wanted to go from an aesthetics perspective. And these are just some of the ones that I wanted to pick out that are a little bit different, that I think that are not as on the radar as much as some of the other knives. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. And until next time, peace.